Did you see that? It flickered.
It did.
Maybe it did.
That's kind of spooky.
Flicker. It's not even October.
Hey, we are officially in spooky season, okay?
True.
September is where it starts for me.
Yep. We're past Labor Day. We're good.
That's it.
Set up the pumpkins and the witches. And
oh, my favorite time of the year. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Spilling Ink. We are the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. And we are back after our summer hiatus. And man, that summer went by quick. I feel like I blinked and it was just, hello, we're back in school. We're back to the grind. What happened?
Yes. Vacation season's done, but we're still going up to Maine. So I'm not in Maine now, in case you noticed the different background. It's like, where's Jane today?
We should make that a weekly poll. Where will Jane be this week?
It could be one of many places too. Well, we have Damien Tiller with us again tonight. So hello, Damien.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Katie, and thanks for having me back. It's good to be back.
Yes. Welcome back. The summer went by quickly for us, and you actually closed our last season out. You were our final guest of the season before we went on hiatus. So it's kind of fitting that you're our opening guest for the new season. But you had a pretty productive summer, didn't you?
I did, yes. I had a few things actually. I had a Comic-Con event that I went to, and a book signing. The release of the 4th book that completes the set of the Oakenfall Chronicles, Lucian's Voyage. And also the audiobooks have been coming along as well. So yeah, it's been quite a busy few months in the last couple of months.
Wow. Awesome. So did it go by as fast for you as it did for us?
It did, yeah. In my head, I'm still in 2020, about April. I haven't really moved on from then.
Yeah, I think we are all kind of feeling that a little bit. Time doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Well, let's talk about your new book.
Sure. So yeah, Lucian's Voyage is the 4th book in the Oakenfall Chronicles, and it's brings together all of the threads from the previous books. So it's the last one in that particular set. So if there's any more Oakenfall Chronicles that come, they will be completely standalone stories. So this is the one that ties up all of the loose threads from Dragon's Blight, from A Winter's Child, and from A Tailor's Son. So all of those books could be read independently on their own, but there is a thread that runs through them all, and Lucian's Voyage kind of pulls that thread and explains a lot of what's happened, and it's probably the darkest of the books. I've always said that it's dark epic fantasy that I write, and Dragon's Blight is quite light-hearted and your typical fantasy really, and they get darker as the series goes on, and Lucian's Voyage is definitely the darkest one so far.
So any teasers, without spoiling obviously, that you can tell our listeners or your potential new readers what they might expect?
So there's been a hand behind a lot of the events in the other books. So there's always been this dark hand that's got maneuvering things. Although things didn't appear to be connected, they're all leading up to this particular kind of cataclysmist. I can't speak. Cataclysmist. No, I'm going to skip that word. Can't do it tonight.
One more time.
Yeah, I'm going to give up. It's too late over here. It's 1 a.m. I'm running on fumes. But no, it's all leading up to this one event basically that potentially changed the world of Faladfar forever, and it's been led up by this particular being or this entity. And a lot of the old faces from the previous books, so Fintin and others, come back. So a lot of the fan favourites are back in this particular book, all joining forces to face off against this new threat, which they were completely unaware of.
I love it. Yeah, and with every book and every series, you have to kind of up the ante a little bit more and figure out the next way to get the group that you've created invested into it. And it gets more difficult the more books you have in a series.
It does.
So now, being that this is the 4th book in your series, if there are plans for other books, are you going to add them as an individual series or an offshoot series?
Probably be as an offshoot. So I have kind of been dabbling with an idea for a 5th one, which within the other books, the Blanca monks are kind of the religious sect, and they gain power within Oakenfall, but that there's some upheaval to that in the 4th book, and things potentially have to change there. So that allows a route to look into what happens to them and what comes next. So I've been also thinking, watching preface of prison programs during lockdown. I've been kind of obsessed with watching kind of 60 Days Inside and things like that. So I quite like the idea of doing a book around kind of medieval or Victorian-esque prisons, but in the fantasy setting, and investigating what that could look like within Oakenfall, within Falodar. And I think that's where it would go next, but it would be completely standalone and separate. The story of those 4 books has finished now, so that set has been completed, and anything that comes next will be an offshoot or completely new characters.
That sounds awesome. I love it when you can take a book and you can do the series with it, but you can also expand the world. And Jane, you are a master of that, because I think all of your series intertwine in some way.
Yes.
Yeah. So that whether it's a character or a setting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just...
the last series I wrote, the Death Chronicles 3, I brought everybody integrated together, so that was fun from all my past series. So
well, and it works for your readers too, because it creates a world where, once they've finished one series, what happens to this character, what happens to that character, and through the additional series you really get to focus on some of those characters.
I think it's quite enjoyable as well, seeing how the different characters can play off. So they were never met before, and they've got quite different personalities. So it's seeing how those personalities clash or don't clash.
Yes. I love that.
and for the go ahead.
It's really tough. The current series I'm writing has nothing to do with any of my other worlds, so it's very hard to not bring in the magic or the some of the things from my main theme series. But New York's about the only thing that that crosses. But so it's really tough not to pull them in, because I'm like, I want to save the day. I need my magic.
Well, and plus they become like your family. And you want to include them when you have an adventure that's near them. You're like, wait, I can bring them in, and you visit with an old friend.
Yeah, the fairy tales, it had been years since I wrote something standalone outside of these characters in this world. So doing the fairy tale series that I did, and they're all standalones, was tough after being with family so long.
Do you miss your characters if you've not written about them for a while? Because I find myself kind of wondering what they're getting up to or how they're getting on, and almost wanting to check in. Or...
Right. And then you start to wonder, did I write them into reality?
Maybe in another universe you did.
Exactly. So, the worry about them and all of that, like a proud parent or whatnot. So, yeah. So when you do spin-offs, it's as you say, it's an extension of that.
Yeah, and I'm one of those readers that when I do pick up a series, the more books it has, the better for me, because I know I can really take my time and enjoy reading, for a very long time, and getting to know the characters and really exploring the world. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of detrimental to standalone books, because then I'm like, that's 300 pages and I'm done. Well, no, I need more.
Yeah, I have a neighbor up at the beach that sent me something. When's the next one out? And I had written a short story about the zombie world, and I hadn't planned on writing that right away. And I'm like, sometime 2022, maybe 2023. She's like, what? And I'm like, well, it's a prequel.
Right, it's got to fit in the schedule. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to come up with something original for the theme of the arc of the series. We've all been saturated with The Walking Dead and all the spinoffs of The Walking Dead. So now I have to come up with something new and different, and just not, zombies eating brains. So That's the rub here. It's like, okay, I had an idea, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's been done too much. So have to let it bake for a little bit.
Well, just remember
like a
that
good
every
dinner,
story,
or maybe it's like a fine wine.
well, and you got to remember every story has already been written. It's your
Right.
unique twist that gives it life.
Right, exactly. It's just I have to think of a twist.
There you go.
And
There
I,
you go.
you know,
You'll come up with something. I know you will, because you are such a prolific writer. You make me look like a snail when it comes to writing. One day she tells me I've got an idea. The next day she's like, "Yeah, I'm 20,000 words in." It's like,
Yep.
what? How do you do that?
Well, yeah.
How about you, Damien? How's your writing schedule working right now? Are you working on anything off the side, or?
Not really. So I've made a very small start into this 5th book. I'm probably only about 5,000-6,000 words into it. I'm, because of the day job and things like that, I'm quite a slow writer, and because I go on the journey with them, I have to wait for them to actually do something for me to write, and if they're not doing it, then I can't write it, which is a little bit difficult. But no, for now it's just I'm working on getting the audiobooks done for the first 4, and then hopefully release this new standalone one maybe sometime next year is the goal.
Now, how the audiobooks working for you? Are you going through ACX? Are you doing a specific narrator?
So yeah, Alan Turton is the narrator. So he narrated Dragon's Blight for me, the first one.
Oh,
and it
that's
kind of
right.
made
We
me,
had the sample.
you did, and it made me fall back in love with it, hearing him bring the characters to life and things. Really, yeah, from hearing that first one, I decided he was going to do all of them. So he's released, Taylor's going to be released on the 2nd of August. So the second one's now an audiobook. And as of this week, actually, I received the first 15-minute sample of him starting work on A Winter's Child. So we should hopefully have that out at the end of October. And then the goal is to get the 4th one out, hopefully just before Christmas, so we can have all 4 this year for people to get before the end of the year.
Do you ever get that feeling when you're listening to the narrator, doing their part and giving voice to your words? We're like, oh my God, I wrote that. Holy crap.
Yes, I have moments like that too.
It's such a surreal feeling, and at one point you're amazed, at the other point you're kind of humbled in a way too, because like, oh my goodness, this is, at least for me, when I see other authors, I put them on such a high pedestal. My favorite authors, the ones who I will buy their book instantly, without having to look at a synopsis or plot line.
Mm-hmm.
And then to think that you could be there. Your book could be that for somebody else. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the best things I love about writing, is to receive those reviews or fan comments and things like that. It's knowing someone's enjoyed what you've done. There's not a better feeling. For me personally, I don't care how many the sales figures and sales numbers, that's obviously important and good, but it's having that review and that comment that trumps that every time.
Oh yeah, I totally agree there. Now, speaking of that, because being an indie author, we've got to do all the legwork. We've got to get the book out there. We've got to get as many reviews as possible, and we've got to set up all the marketing campaigns. So how did your launch for this new book take place? What did you set up, and how has it been going? See, I can't talk either.
Yeah, so I to be honest, not done too much yet. It's a bit of a soft launch at the moment, because I've got another Comic-Con event coming up on the 2nd of October. So it's Exeter Devon Comic-Con, so it should have about 8,000 people going to that, and that's going to be kind of my launch event. So that'll be the big event with new banners, and we're selling and signing books there and things like that. So that will be the actual, although it's published already, that will be the official launch, and hopefully it will be the major kickoff. So for now, it's just a few Amazon ads and Facebook ads and things like that, just to try and drive a little bit of interest in it, while I still focus on the audiobooks and things like that. So it's a little bit slow, but I'm happy with it for now.
Okay. And as far as going out and trying to get reviews, do you have blogs that you target, or certain people that you send out books to?
So I've got a few people that I send out to kind of ask reviews and things like that, to review it and comments. Other than that, it's kind of newsletters and things like that. I am struggling a little bit with reviews, and I think that's why I value them so much. I'm doing quite well on sales, but trying to get people to come back once they've read it and leave a review is always the biggest challenge. And it can be frustrating sometimes when you, because especially on Amazon, there's some reviews that people will just buy, and there's websites that you can go to get fake reviews. And there's some authors that I'm aware of who aren't selling particularly many copies, but are getting more reviews and things. So it's always a little bit frustrating that they're kind of hedging their bets a little bit and not playing the game properly.
How about sites like Goodreads? Do you use them at all?
I do. I use Goodreads. I'm on Goodreads and BookBub and other things like that to reach out to people.
Okay. And I know last time we talked, you had mentioned Courtney Cannon
Yes.
as one of the marketing resources, and we love her. She's always got excellent tips and tricks, and her campaigns are always very reasonably priced and do well being a reasonably priced advertising campaign. So was she part of your launch strategy as well?
She was, yes. Yeah, I'd arranged for a 2-week window with Courtney where she helped on that soft launch and reaching out in newsletters and things to drive those initial pre-orders to make that initial launch a success. So yeah, I always rate Courtney, and anytime an indie author contacts me to say kind of how do they start up or who do they need to speak to or what do they need to do, Courtney's always one of the first people that I point them towards, because for me personally, even in the last few years, back to kind of 2019, my goal was if I got one book sold a week, I was happy back then at one a day. That's what I was aiming for, and that was incredible. And then last year, it kind of 1 or 2 a day rather than 1 or 2 a week. And with Courtney's help, that's now, if I kind of do less than 3 a day, that's a terrible day. It's that the support that she gives you to help you get to there. So yeah, she's definitely someone to work with to be successful with.
She is, and she's on my list as well when it comes to clients that ask me for the marketing side of it, you know, what to do if they have a book that's in her genre that she supports. She's the first person that I send people to, because she does know that side of it. And you do need somebody who knows the genre, knows the market, to help guide you to find the right solution, because you can go broke very quickly on the marketing side without making sales if you don't know what you're doing.
Right. And what genres does Courtney usually support?
Most of the popular ones right now: urban fantasy, paranormal romance, high fantasy, sci-fi, speculative fiction, steampunk. She really hits a lot of the popular genres.
Okay.
And she does a lot of book builder events, newsletter builders, things like that. And they're usually reasonably priced. I think everything's within like $5 to $25. So it's affordable for indie authors, which is important because, again, as the indie, you do everything. That includes paying for covers. It includes paying for editing and paying for formatting if you can't do it yourself. There's a lot of things that the indie author has to pay for. And at the end of it, if they haven't budgeted for that marketing, you know, what do you do?
Right. Exactly.
That's one of the most painful things when you're watching the author forums and you see a new author coming up and releasing their first book, and there's normally comments like, I haven't got any money for advertising, but what do I do? And it's like, you need that budget for advertising. That's what will get your book in front of people. But it doesn't matter how good your work is. If people don't see it, they're never going to read it.
Yep. Yeah, and then you have those very same people who go, okay, well, I'll do Amazon ads, and then they don't structure an ad correctly, and they blow their money. They blow their yearly budget in a week because they
don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and it creates a downward spiral for them. But
I've gotten my ads to work a little bit for me, and I'm only paying like $7 to $10 a month across all my books.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I did, I think, 10 cents per ad, and I'm getting impressions, which is like, okay.
There you go.
You know, with keywords and stuff. So thank you, Brian.
Yeah, Brian Cohen, definitely worth following. He's another that I always recommend for people when they're learning ads, because he offers, I think it's 3 times a year.
Yes, free ad, 7-day ad thing, and
And his 7-day ad course is a real course. He shows you step by step the methods that he uses to create the ads, different ways to create them.
Track them, and you know what things to ignore. and what things like the Amazon ad dashboard is like useless in some cases. It shows you impressions and clicks, but everything else is suspect. So it shows you how to really show your return on investment. So it's a good course. So,
Yep. And it's necessary because again, we spend so much money producing the book. There's not always a lot left over.
I mean, the higher you bid, the more visibility you get, but also the more, eats into your pocket and your profits.
Well, and not every click is going to equal a
Right.
sale. So if you're spending
Exactly.
$1 per click,
right.
and you're not getting any back, you're already
Mhm.
in the hole. And if you're
Right.
spending more per click than you would get for your royalties,
right.
you're again in the hole.
Right.
There's so many
Exactly.
factors to consider.
Exactly. So, the steady low bids, getting your impressions out there, I think the standard is if you see something like 10 times, then you'll react to it. So it's usually not the first time, but seeing it over and like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Let's check it out. Just on the mentality of the advertising. So
Just another thing we have to learn.
yeah.
Wear so many hats.
I do find it amusing sometimes. I don't know if you've had it where you'll be watching a video on Facebook or something, and one of your adverts will come up in the middle of the videos and things like that. So you're within the target market. I've had that a couple of times where I write fantasy. Obviously, I'm a big fan of fantasy, so I'm within my demographic of readers. So occasionally, I've been watching videos for different things, and my adverts come up, which is always it's interesting and nice, but at the same time, it's like I've just paid for that.
Yeah.
Well, only if you click it.
True.
Right? If you just see it, yeah.
Then you know it's working. I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. I haven't seen my ads probably because I don't have my other books as keywords. So
and I usually have ad blockers on, so I rarely see ads.
Right. Exactly.
I run ad blockers. I've got my VPN running.
Yes. Oh yes.
You've got to keep.
So let's talk about the
different subject.
cons.
Let's talk back about books again.
Yes. Let's get away from advertising. Let's talk about going to Comic-Con or the other places that both of you have gone this year. You've both gotten out and joined in the book.
Join the real world again.
Yeah, book marketing world. Let's talk. It's a marketing thing. So tell me about it. How did it go?
Yeah, so for me, Brighton was kind of a big first in many ways. So it's my first Comic-Con event I've ever gone to. And also it's the first thing I've really done since going into lockdown and COVID. So it was, there's a lot of apprehension going into it and kind of a lot of unknowns to prepare myself for. But it was in Brighton, which was, it's quite a big town in the UK on the seaside town, basically. I think it did quite well because it was one of the first big events as well after lockdown. So there was a lot of people that were desperate to get out to start enjoying life and doing things again. So yeah, myself and my girlfriend went down there, and the night before we stayed in a hotel to make sure we were there nice and early and set the stall up and things. But the COVID controls we had in place were really good because it made sure that everyone was safe. So we had the tables between us to keep the 2-meter distance. We had alcohol wipes on the table and alcohol gel for people to use it. So anytime someone used a card reader, we wiped it down and kept it clean. We wiped the books down when people picked them up to read them, to just prevent it. And obviously we did a peak flow test before and after to make sure we'd kept safe. But the event was really busy. There was probably a good few thousand people came through, and for me it was a good experience to meet different fans and actually talk about the book face to face and find out kind of the questions that the fans were asking, and having a chat with them and getting to sign some and sell some copies of the books was really exciting. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I've already signed up, as I say, for October with the same company. So they're doing another one down in Exeter. So I'm going and joining them on the 2nd of October down for the Devon Comic-Con as well. So it was, it's good.
So now being your first Comic-Con ever, right?
It was first ever.
Did it meet your expectations?
It did. It was. I was a little bit. Well, I went in incredibly apprehensive and nervous and panicky, and I walked up to the building not really sure what to do. I had a bag full of stock and my banners and flyers and giveaway things, and walked up to the security guard. I was like, I'm here to set up my store. What do I do? So we got the table ready and things, and then there's other people milling around, and just sat and talking to a guy on the next table next to me as he was setting up, and he was actually the Red Power Ranger who.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of quite surreal talking to him, not really knowing who he was. He's saying it was my first time. I'm a bit nervous. Any tips for what I need to do? And he's giving me some information. And then someone walked over, like, you know who that is, don't you? And I'm like, not a clue. That's the Red Power Ranger. So yeah, it's a bit surreal to be sitting next to, because
you don't see the Power Rangers faces. They're all
exactly. But yeah, I write because I enjoy writing and I enjoy people reading my work. So to be sat kind of next to celebrities, because I was in the corner where they had different celebrities doing signings and things like that. It was so surreal and strange. And I was saying, Katie, just before we kicked off, I was so nervous before the event started that when the kind of the organizer were walking around, so we opened the door to the public, I'd had a coffee and our tables laid out immaculately. We had all the books displayed to show people, the card reader laid out, bookmarks and everything.
Oh no, sound went out. Uh-oh, your sound went out, Damien.
Oh, can you hear me now? Am I back?
Yes.
You're back.
So what happened? We're like, they came in and then you're talking.
Just building the tension intentionally. So yeah, as I said, they opened the doors and I was there with my coffee and my hands were shaking because I was so nervous. I caught the table and I threw my coffee completely all over the edge of the table. So we had, as the guests were pouring in the front door, pull the books off the side, trying to wipe them down, get fresh ones back up. And it was just, yeah, it was not what you need when you're already like full of nerves and anxiety. And yeah, but we got that sorted, got the books out, calmed down. And yeah, people started mulling around and just looking at different stalls. And then, yeah, started having a chat with some of the people that came over. And it took probably a good hour and a half of the anxiety to ease off. And it was a mix of the anxiety from never doing an event like this before, not really knowing what's expected of me or what I should be doing. And then it being the first thing since COVID as well. And I've got used to dealing with people through screens and things like that. But actually having to speak to someone who stood there in front of me was quite strange.
Right. Did you see anybody dressed up in cosplay?
Yeah, there was lots of people in cosplay. They had kind of cosplay competitions, and we were quite fortunate as well. So to the left of us, they had a big green screen, and the photographers, so all of the cosplay people were going to this green screen to have their photos taken and being kind of the background superimposed and things. So we got to see pretty much all of the cosplayers come through, which was
cool.
Which was quite cool.
That's so much fun.
It was.
That's one of my favorite things to do when I'm at a convention and maybe it's slow at our table, is to go out and find people in cool costumes and grab pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually end up, for like the entire weekend, my Instagram feed is all of the best costumes that I have found each day.
Oh, yep, that's true.
It's so fun. And people put so much effort into their costumes.
They really do, some of them. It's incredible. It's an art skill in itself, actually, some of them, how much they can do.
Yeah. And they come there, they want to show off, what they've done. So it's, appreciating it. I always ask, can I post your picture? I don't post any pictures if they tell me no. But it's a way of appreciating all that hard effort that they put into making the costume and how accurate it is to, whether it's the book or the film or the video game that they're doing it from.
Right.
And I've seen some really, really creative ones and some gender bend ones and some interpretations of costumes. It's interesting to see how people can throw stuff together and how creative their mind works when they do it.
Yes.
Some people went the extra mile because we were there for 2 days. We did a Saturday and Sunday event, and some people came on the Saturday in one costume which they must have spent months making and preparing, and then they came back on the Sunday in something completely different. And it's just like, how much commitment to do that is incredible.
Right.
There was one in Tucson that I went to, and he did pun costumes. So he would take like two costumes and put them together. And every day of the convention, he would have a different punny costume. And I think at one point he was an elfish impersonator. So he had Elrond and Elvis combined. It was beautiful. Then there was Lumberjack Sparrow.
Okay.
It was so creative. I loved it. And every day there was a different costume.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been as a guest to Comic-Con, a couple of them in Rhode Island that I went to. So it's, I would like to get a table.
It's fun to do, especially if you can do it like in a group setting, because just manning your own table by yourself, yes, there's people to either side of you that you can talk to, but you really can't leave because who's watching your table. But when you go as a group, then people can kind of take shifts. They can go out and explore, and somebody's back there at the table keeping everything where it's supposed to be. So it's nice to be able to do that with a group.
Really I was very fortunate that my girlfriend came with me, so when I was talking to people and signing the books, I would then kind of pass them to her, and she would bag them up and put the freebies and things in and give them to the people so we could keep it moving and take that pressure off. So as you say, you're there for 8 to 10 hours. If you need to pop to the loo or something, you need someone to keep an eye on what's going on. I can't imagine doing it all on my own.
Well, and especially if you do panels too, because as you do more Comic-Cons, sometimes you get those opportunities to sit in on a panel and to speak about a subject. Who's at your table for that hour to hour and a half that you're off somewhere else?
Yeah, that's why if we ever did it, I'd make my son come with me. He's also one of my co-writers, so like,
he'd be perfect for it.
Do this. This is your penance. Oh no, not that.
I used to do that with my oldest too. I would bring her down with me as my assistant, and she would man the table when I needed her to. And I had her very well trained at an early age to hand out bookmarks to every single person who would come by. And I remember one time it was a Las Vegas Comic-Con, so it was a smaller one, and she was doing it. She was handing out bookmarks to everybody that came by. And Michael Rooker had come by, and he was stopping at a couple of different tables and looking at things. And she just, completely oblivious. She's like, "Here, take one." And he stops. He's like, "Oh, thank you." Grabs my phone. He's like, "Let's take some selfies," and took some selfies, grabbed her phone, did the same, and then walked off. And I looked at her and I was like, "You know who that was, right?" No, it was like Guardians of the Galaxy, the blue guy, Yondu. And she's like, "Oh."
All you had to do is say The Walking Dead. Come on,
she was too young then.
Too.
She was too young then. But it was so adorable. She's just completely oblivious, but she was so well trained.
Yep. Well, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was very cool, actually.
Yep.
We ended up, I told her, I sent her over with a couple of books because I wanted to say thank you when I realized that they charge like $65 for those pictures, especially selfies. I was like, oh my God, take this over, say thank you so much. And she did. She ran off. She went over there. She came back with 2 signed pictures. And I went, what the hell? She's like, yeah, he said thank you back and gave me these. I was like, oh my God, that is so cool.
Yep.
Like that, he was just so amazing. And it made for a great experience too. We've got those memories now. And it really, like, I don't think I've had a bad Comic-Con experience. Even on Comic-Cons where they weren't necessarily lucrative, they've always been fun. They've always had, really, really good moments that you remember.
Yeah, being behind a table would probably be much better. We ended up getting a little bit claustrophobic waiting for the Jeffrey Dean Morgan photos, and my son wanted to bail out of it. And I'm like, okay, we'll go wait and see him in that, in the other thing, because it was just so crowded. And I would have been okay waiting, sort of, being short. Everybody was taller than me, and they were packed.
Yeah.
But he was just like, no, I gotta get out of here. So we went and we waited for the Walking Dead panel. So, and he was late to that because he stayed longer to take pictures. But that's all right. I was like, all right. He was just like, no, I can't stay in this claustrophobic. So being behind the table it's probably a little less intimidating by the massive crowds just moving as, you know, like masses of smoke going down through the aisle. So
that's
I think
true.
it's nice to have that buffer between you and, yeah, I'm not a big fan of crowds in general, so it is nice to have that buffer to.
Right.
And with the COVID, you know, keep distance and stuff, was that kind of, were people naturally keeping their distance, or did you notice that it was still, you know, convention, you know, everybody's crowded in?
Most people were quite good in leaving a lot of space. There were, I think as always, there's the odd person that just kind of flaunted it and didn't really care about the personal space and that side of thing, but most people were leaving their distance, and for at least for the sellers and people doing the things, it's fine because you had to say tables between them, and the majority of visitors had masks and things on, so a lot of people were taking precautions and keeping safe. So good. I had no worries. I'm asthmatic, so for me COVID is quite a big deal, and I try to avoid it wherever I can, so I didn't have any concerns there, and I think it was well organized and we all kept safe, so that's the important thing.
That's good. We did a very small scale convention at the, I want to say beginning of August.
Yes.
Yeah. Combat Con does, they come to Vegas every year, and last year, of course, they couldn't, and they did a virtual convention. And this year was their attempt at coming back. And while very small compared to the previous year, it was nice to be able to get back into it and to see people and be able to be at a public event. And they were very specific about, you know, the COVID regulations. You couldn't even get into the convention space if you didn't have your card. You got a special stamp. I mean, they tried to make it as safe as possible. There was definitely spacing had been extended between tables. And Combat Con also serves as a HEMA tournament. So there's a lot of, you know, fighting going on. There's only so much space to work with. So in those areas, it did feel a little more crowded, but even then they had the widest open space available to use for those circumstances. So it was nice. It was nice to see.
Sword play?
What's that?
Did you get to do sword play?
I did not this year. I did do a self-defense class, which was, it was so much fun. Oh my God. That was the most fun class I think I've ever taken. It was like 3 hours long too.
Yeah.
And it was, it was the most ridiculous self-defense because it was kind of real world self-defense where if you're going to be grabbed by somebody, it's not going to be a little polite touch on the shoulder. And we were going like actual grabs and stuff and just cracking up the whole time because we have to get consent every time. So every time we did anything, it was, hold on. Can I grab you? Can I grab you? It became a joke throughout the class. And we're just cracking up the whole time. And I did self-defense and I did knife throwing this year.
Okay. Not axe throwing.
No, just the knife throwing.
Okay.
And
you have done axe throwing.
I have done axe throwing. It's fun. There's an axe throwing place down the road from me that I like to go to burn off steam. But knife throwing is a little more precise. So I wanted to really learn that technique. So I did that in between teaching. I think I taught 3 classes this year and then was a part of another panel. So it was pretty busy, but it was much smaller scale and it was just nice to be able to get out. I think that was what I took away from it. I didn't care about book sales or anything. It was like, I can see people again.
I can socialize. I'm not in my apartment or my house. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm looking forward to doing more. I still have the worry in the back of my mind that we're not ready yet. But it's the more we hear about people being able to do them and do them safely, I think the better. And Damien, you said you're doing 2 more this year?
1 more at the moment for definite, and then potentially more as we get to the run up for Christmas. But yeah, same organisers who did the one in Brighton. So the precautions they took were really good. So even where, as you said, there's some bits where people did gather, but even they were spaced out and there was enough room for people to keep their distance and things. So it was, it felt safe, and I'm more than happy to go back and do it again with them. So it's definitely worth doing.
Now, was it lucrative? You don't have to give us number values, but did you feel like it was worth the cost of going?
It did. It covered my cost of going. I had a target in my mind, which everyone told me, kind of, don't aim too high or don't have a target in mind because you might not get it and you might feel down. But I had a target that I wanted, and we managed just before we were going to pack up and leave to hit that target. So yeah, I was incredibly happy with what we've done, and it was good. And we were quite fortunate that one of the artists who's done some work and character design for me was actually at the Comic-Con in a different room and things. So it's quite nice to have someone else there that we knew, and it just made it a little bit easier.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah. And it is a good event for networking too. So you get to sort of see other people who are part of the industry that you work in, you know, artists, other authors, sometimes other publishers, celebrities. Sometimes there's lots of opportunities to really get involved with the industry.
There is. So the one I'm going to in October, there's a couple of authors that I speak to via the author channels and things I've never met in person, but we're going to get to see each other for the first time in October. So that'd be quite nice to actually see each other and just put a face to the name and the email address and whatever else. So it'll be good to see.
That's awesome.
That is.
Any tips or tricks for new authors considering going to conventions on what to do now that you've done your first?
So I'd say the first thing, I didn't have enough copies of the first book, so I had kind of sets of books. So I had I think it was 50 or 60 sets, but of all of the books. But what a lot of people do, if they haven't heard of you before, they came around and talked about the book, and then they'd walk off. And some of them came back round, like, well, we've Googled your reviews on Amazon or whatever, and actually I'm quite interested. But they only wanted the first one just to see how they get on with it, and then they'd look to buy the rest online. So I'd suggest having more of your first one than the later ones, because that seems to be the one that they actually go for. And I was getting a little bit worried towards the end that I was going to run out of stock of the first one and had all of these extra ones to bring home, which I'm now taking to the next Comic-Con. But I've now ordered a lot more for the second one to ensure I don't run out. Did
you do any bundle pricing?
I did, yeah. It's I can't remember the exact price now, but I think it was say £9 for each, or you got all free for 15, something along those lines.
Yeah. That usually is one of the best ways to try and entice people, and you keep it in simple increments of like single dollar amounts. So if somebody's got a 20 on them, 20 is like the target you want for your price, so that they get the value, but it's also easy for them to not have to run off and go find a cash machine if they don't have card or whatever.
Right.
That's one thing. I don't know if it's the same in the US, but we have imagine you've got Zoom card readers that are free to use, and they just take a small percentage of what you take. So I had one of those because a lot of people didn't have cash on them. So if you've got that facility to take card, that's a big difference between getting that sale and not getting it. So it's definitely worth getting a card reader if you can.
Very true, as long as the internet isn't restricted. Because I've run into that problem too, where I think it's Phoenix we go to. The vendor hall is downstairs, kind of like basement level, and the Wi-Fi is really spotty there, and I tend to have trouble sometimes getting those card readers to go through. So I always pray to the god of Wi-Fi before I do a sale, hoping it will actually go through.
I didn't use the Wi-Fi to pay, so I had my phone as a hotspot and was using the mobile signal to do it that way rather than relying on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, well, now you've got Cash App and Venmo and their instant apps most people have on their phone now too. That becomes yet another way that you can go, okay, well, here's my information. So they're making it a lot easier for mobile vending.
Right.
All right. Well, let's see. We talked about conventions. We talked about new releases. Let's see what else we can talk about. Oh, the audiobooks again. So when is your schedule of audiobooks coming out? Because you've got 4 books right now. So I'm assuming book 1's already out. Book 2 is in the works.
Book 2's already out as well, actually. So we've got Dragon's Flight's out. Taylor's Son came out at the end of August. A Winter's Child is being recorded at the moment. So the goal is to have that by the end of October. And then the last one will be the end of December. So, yeah. For me, just listening back to him's incredible. As I say, Alan's doing a really good job bringing them to life. And I think I said this in the last chat that we had back in before your summer break. It's quite strange to hear how Alan brings them to life and the way he adds texture to them. And it's just, it adds an extra level to the stories. It's just incredible, really.
Yeah. Now, for viewers who are catching this either live or later, if you want to hear that sample, we have it on Damien's previous visit with our show. So if you look through our playlist, the last one we had for our season 5, that's where you're going to find that sample. And it was very good.
It was excellent.
It was really good to listen to. Your narrator has an excellent voice, good cadence. He gives a lot of energy to it. And that's what you need with an audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I love listening back to them.
What's that?
I personally enjoy listening back to them as well. And it's obviously it's a story that I know kind of inside out, and at least in text had lost a bit of its magic for me personally from reading it a million times while you're editing and going through proofreading and things. But hearing it read back, as you say, he's done an incredible job on it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that makes all the difference. The narrator can make or break the audiobook. It's very important to have the right voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I finally got my rights to the Steve Williams books back.
Oh, good.
And I had separate audio producers for them, for all 6 of them. Now I have one that's going through it. And he's doing Crystal Illusions now. So the first 4 books are out. So I just have Crystal Illusions and Saving Face left.
Yeah, now you've been pretty busy too, haven't you?
Me?
Yes.
Well, what's new?
That's true.
Yes. I've been writing like a fiend on my dragon books. So, there they are. Dragon Tempest came out in June. Dragon Storm is out on Tuesday. And Dragon Dawn is coming out in December. So I'm about 40% through of Dragon Dawn. So I'm excited about that one.
Now, I have to ask, though, because we were talking about the audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
ACX is still probably the number one source that people go to, but they're still kind of dealing with we're still dealing with the Audible Gate issues with them. Mm-hmm. And though it's been quiet on that front, we just did the news with Joe last week on this. Things have been very quiet over the summer as far as the legal battle that they're going through, but they're still getting everything together to make this fight to get Amazon, who owns ACX, to start full transparency, to start paying actually the numbers they tell us they're paying us.
Yes.
And nothing really has moved forward yet. So has that made you consider other options, or do you still just, I'm going to go with ACX just because it's kind of the easiest source to reach?
For me personally, ACX is the company that the narrator uses. So because I want to keep using him, I'm going to keep using them. That's where my narrator is. So as you say, there's challenges with it, but I think the benefits outweigh those challenges, and it's easy in the sense of getting it set up and working with him and being able to get the things created. So my main goal is getting out to the readers or listeners. So ACX is great for doing that. It's a little unclear what you're going to get paid and when and how and that type of thing, as you say, isn't necessarily crystal clear, but getting to the readers is the most important part for me personally.
It goes back to the marketing thing. If you've got a book and no one knows it's there, what do you do? So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Jane, how about you?
Well, at this point, I just have this set of books out. I haven't contracted anybody else going forward at this point. I'm just waiting and seeing, because I have an awful lot of skin in the game on ACX as well. So just wait and see.
It puts us all in kind of just a weird space because, on the one hand, we do want to reach as many readers as possible. And those readers are now listeners. So how do we do it without cutting our nose off? How do we do that without, spending more money? Because if your narrator doesn't work through a different channel, or if, you need a royalty share and they want you to pay up front, there's so many roadblocks, and it makes the decision of what to do difficult. And for me personally, I have just held off on creating any new books until the Audible Gate issue is solved, because I'm hoping at the end of the day that Amazon will do the right thing. Right. Yeah. Plus some of the narrators that I loved and I used
for, a lot for a lot of my books have gone off royalty share.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay. That's where it's like, okay, I need to find somebody else, but not for a mid-series. And it's just like, okay.
But that's okay. We nothing has to be decided, definitively one way or another. Everybody's going to take their own path, and everybody has their own reasons for why they take their path. And like Damien, you're planning on getting everything out, it sounds like, by Christmas. So you've got a schedule to maintain. You've got a good narrator that you've got to fit within his window. So that means you keep moving forward.
Exactly. And that's some of the feedback I've had from listeners, I guess, and or readers, whatever you want to call them, is they don't like it when the narrator changes. They like, if they're following a series, they want that same narrator for the whole series. So it's important for me to stay with that and give the readers what they want, and make sure I can give them the best product and the best book that I can actually get out to them, or the best audio book. So for me, I want to keep working with Alan and just get that done.
Right.
Sounds like a good plan.
It's like the question on the last two Fractured Fairy Tales is, am I going to even do audiobooks because of that reason?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yep. Like I said, I'm halting for now because I don't think it'll be a detriment at this point to not spend any money going forward to create something if I'm still unsure about the payout. So my cost benefit analysis was holding is better than trying to push forward at this point.
Agreed.
I did have one question though, because you've got high fantasy books, and people who love high fantasy books tend to collect books, and Amazon finally rolled out hardcovers. Now I think they're still in beta, so not every market has them, but would you be putting them in hardcover if it's available to you through Amazon?
It's popped up in the last few days, the notification that that's something they're offering, and I was considering it, but again, there's additional cost of marketing and creating it and formatting it, and the paperbacks and Kindles and things are selling well enough, but I don't know if it's worth that extra expense to create that for at the moment. If the fans start saying it's something they want and the feedback is like, have you got this in hardback, then obviously it's something we can look to do, but I would probably wait to hear what the market actually wants on that first.
I did two. I did two hardcover books for the Nighthawk Trilogy. So I did all of the books in the Nighthawk Trilogy, not just 1, 2, and 3. So the prequel and the short story is all in there. So it's all packaged together. And I did the Fractured Fairy Tale, but I did, instead of 1 to 6, I did 1 to 7. So if you get the hardcover, you get all 7 books.
I need that. I need that. Okay, I'm a collector. A collector. I love hardbound books.
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I need that in my life.
And
I did
stories.
I did hardcover for my asset series for books 1 through 3. I still need to get the cover artist to give me the hardcover for 4 and 5, which if I ever finish it, we won't talk about that.
You will.
I'm a sucker for hardbound books as a collector. I love having hardbound books. I will go to thrift stores and I will go to bookshops and look for books I already have in paperback to find them in hardcover, because I love hardcover books. So I was a sucker when I saw it. I was like, yeah, I need to start doing that. But I also use Ingram, so I've been doing hardbound for my asset series through Ingram.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I just did it with the Fractured Fairy Tale, and my cover artist said, send me the thing when you do it, and if it's not right, I will fix it. And it wasn't quite centered right on the back cover. She fixed it, and it was like, oh, I love you.
See, that's something to know. The dimensions for the cover on a, let's say, 5x8 book are completely different for a hardbound book of the same size, because there's a fold that you don't
Yes.
see.
Yeah, the thing in the yeah.
It adds extra dimension to it. So they have
Mhm.
to basically shrink it down and then add a border that matches if they're doing it
Mhm.
from an existing cover in order to
Mhm.
make it fit, because that fold really shifts where everything is.
Yes, it does. It does. So, but yeah, it was nice to get that. I was like, oh, this is so pretty.
So Jane, do you mind me asking how the hardback compares for you to the paperbacks and Kindles? Have you found that it's actually being successful?
I've gotten a few orders, not so much. It was more for, that's why I did the trilogy packs, or the longer books in hardcover, because I wanted to give people a little bit more if they were going to spend more on the hardcover. Not a lot of sales. I think it's more for a vanity thing for me, honestly.
They do create a unique presentation at book events.
Yeah.
And I won't order, like, I may order a set of like 50 books in paperback to have for like my summer when I usually go out and do a lot of conventions. But for hardbounds, I'll buy like 3. And I will have just enough copies to bring without taking too much weight, so that there is an alternative option that looks really cool. And sometimes that just draws the eye and gets people to look at it and they go, oh, but you have a paperback, that's cheaper. And then it creates good presentation when you're in person events. And I'm a sucker. I like to have them just for myself. So
And I had to do them a little larger than the paperback. So instead of 9x6, I think it was the 10x7.
okay.
To be able to fit the trilogy and the 7 books in without
that would make sense.
Exceeding the page limit. so yes, but I was like, I just want to try it. So, and some cover artists are not comfortable with it yet. Some of them are, thank God my cover artist who did Fractured Fairy Tales and the Nighthawk Trilogy was like, yeah, I do. But I have some that say, I'm not doing that yet. They haven't given us a consistent format or a consistent thing that we can really follow. So
yeah, and it is a different template altogether.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And the templates at that point were not public.
Oh, so, you can't do that.
Right. Exactly. At that time, they were not public for most people, but some of my cover artists had the inside track, I guess.
Well, that's good, because you definitely need it. I've had so many clients that come to me and their cover artist or person they hired to do their cover art just sent them a front, a back, and a spine as individual files.
No.
And they're like, okay, how do I upload this? And I go, you need a wrap cover. You need it all together in the correct dimensions, counting for the spine width. Go back to your cover artist and get them to do it right. Well, they don't know how to do it.
Then you don't have a professional cover artist.
Yeah. Like, this is standard procedure. If you're going, if your publisher is, or if your printer is Amazon, you go to Amazon and you get their template based on your page count and size.
Yep.
If you're going to Ingram, it's the same thing. Page count and size. That's what determines the dimensions of the book.
Yes.
They should know this.
Absolutely. Big red flag otherwise.
Yeah. It happens though, but education, people, especially the newer authors, they don't know. It's not easy to find the information. So
right.
The learning curve is quite large when you first start, isn't it, for all the different things that you come across as you're going on that journey.
Oh yeah. And some people just kind of push through and they do what they can and stumble, skin their knee, and get up and try again. And some people, it frustrates the hell out of them. That's why there's a lot of author service companies out there that charge ridiculous rates for the things that they do, and authors fall prey to that as well.
Oh yes. Yeah. I started to write an article on the cost of publishing, and I found one out there, and I'm like, I'm not going to reiterate it because that was out in May. I was just going to do a blog because I was like, why am I blinking?
You have a ghost over there, I swear.
Well, I'm not at my normal place. So the Wi-Fi, I switched to the normal one that they told us to. The other one, I hadn't had any issues, but I'm not entirely sure it was valid still. So yes, maybe there is a ghost here. But yeah, so the Wi-Fi, we did this at work when we were on camera and trying to share things. It shut us down.
Oh,
Both of us. So we had to not go on camera, and share documents during our day job. But of course, that day, I think there were 5 of us working here.
oh yeah, that's going to put a strain on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. But they just have streaming TV. They don't have cable. So when the television is on, and yes, it's on. Yeah, the bandwidth goes, and that's when I blink out.
All right. Well, we are about at our hour. So if anybody's got any final thoughts they want to bring up, anything that we didn't get to touch on while we were talking. The Wi-Fi is censoring Jane. Yes, Anita, the Wi-Fi is the ghost in the Wi-Fi is censoring her.
Maybe they have the kid, the kid option on. So yes, because we're babysitting the 6-month-old and the 3-year-old. So had a long day. Outside of my release next week, I don't have much news.
That's right. You do have your release next week, Dragon Storm.
Yep. And Dragon Dawn will be out in December. And then I'm off to write about vampire huntresses. Woo!
All right.
And Damien, when was your book out? Or when is it out?
So Lucian Voyage is out already. So it's all 4 are available now for people to get on Amazon and pretty much everywhere else. They've gone quite wide now. It was originally just on Amazon, but it's now everywhere. So we'd love people to go and have a read. And if you do enjoy them, please do leave a review, or if you don't want to leave a review, there's an email address on the oakenfallchronicles.com, and you can get in touch with me directly and just let me know what you thought of them. I always love to hear from the fans. So please do get in touch.
And where can they see you next?
So for seeing me next in person would be Exeter Devon Comic Con on the 2nd of October. So that would be my next face-to-face event. At the moment, I don't have any other webcasts or anything lined up. So this is the only one I've been doing currently at the moment. But who knows? So keep building. I will no doubt pop up somewhere, I'm sure.
And what about you, Katie? What do you have on the docket outside of
Nada.
Crazy editing?
Nada. I got nothing. I have got to finish the damn book that I've been saying that I need to finish forever.
Yep. I'm not doing a joint project with you until you finish that.
Damn you, Jane.
So there is my motivation.
All right. Hopefully I'll finish it then before the end of the year, because I think we said starting 2022 is when we really wanted to get in on our next project. All right, guys. Well, we will be back next week with another guest that you may remember, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. And until then, have a great week. Everybody enjoy a good read and take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.